But I think of technology as an expression of humanity. It's part of who we are. And the human species is already a biological, technological civilization, and it's part of who we are. And AI is part of humans. So AI is human, and it's part of the technological expression of humanity. And we use technology to extend our reach. I couldn't reach that fruit at that higher branch 1,000 years ago, so we invented a tool to extend our physical reach. And we now extend our mental reach. We can access all of human knowledge with a few keystrokes. And we're going to make ourselves literally smarter by merging with AI.
What's up, everybody? Peasant Journalist here. So we're diving deep into, again, a lot of these topics that are not being discussed, especially at a mainstream media level, but even at the independent level. Journalists from both sides have not really touched transhumanism yet. And I think this is going to be the biggest culture war of over the course of the next 10 years. That's my perspective, is that we're just at the very tipping point of this. This transhumanism has been something that has existed for a long time, but it's just now getting to the point where this technology that would allow transhumanism to really take off, we are at the very beginning stages of that technology really being able to be rolled out on a massive scale. And so what we're witnessing right now, from my perspective in the world, and this is why I don't trust any of this transhumanism stuff, I'm open to and do believe that this technology can be used on some level for good, but there's got to be strict boundaries. There's got to be strict lines. Because obviously, if you think about this from a medical perspective, who are we to say that somebody can't eliminate their child that's going to be born into the world, a genetic disease? Who are we to tell them that they can't use gene editing like CRISPR technologies to do that? Who are we to tell them that we can't do that? So obviously, there's a healthcare aspect to this that makes perfect sense to me. I can see how this technology could be used for good in many ways. The problem is we also have to factor in that there is evil in the world, okay? Evil exists in Christianity. There's evil people that call themselves Christians or whatever, that call themselves Muslims, that call themselves Jews, that call themselves atheists or agnostics. There's evil people that look out for their own interests, right, and are willing to do whatever it takes to gain access to technology and knowledge, and then be able to use it and lord it over people. Those people exist in the world. And so that's where I think we have to understand the negative possibilities here. This is a massive crossroads we are at. And it seems to me that the elites, these global corporate elites, these elites in these non-government organizations like the World Economic Forum, and then the elites that are in these states, like even in the United States, China, Russia, it seems to be that they are all kind of in some ways trying to usher in this vision for a new world order. Okay, and this is not a conspiracy theory. This goes back a long time. There's an author named H.G. Wells who is an occultist, which, again, there is an occult element to all of this that I'm going to be diving deep into, because I think it's of the utmost importance for us to understand how a lot of these elites that are controlling our world, it's important for us to understand, how they view the world, because that is going to dictate how they structure the world for us. And I don't want to get into the World Economic Forum and their power, but they are creating policy. These corporate, there's a merging of this corporate world with states, governments, and then you also add in this NGO element on top of that, this non-government organization element of these power structures seem to be getting bigger and more centralized. And I'm afraid that this new technology, if it gets into the hands of these people that are more pro-centralists, these are your, in my opinion, it is your old idea of this ruling class the aristocracy, this oligarchy worldview, that there are some of these high level elites have been born into these families, and they believe that they are smarter than the rest of us, pretty much. That they've been given this calling, that they're kind of the chosen ones to run and rule our world for all of us. And so I think that that's the crux of this problem. When you understand that there is this push, H.G. Wells was a socialist, he was an occultist, believed that we should, because the world was becoming interconnected. He also wrote a book called The World Brain. And again, this is back in the 1930s, 40s when he was writing this stuff. He foresaw technology getting to the point where there was going to be this AI-like brain that was rule the world, right? And that it would result in this utopia. He was a proponent of pursuing this at all costs. And so when you understand that element, right, that there is this worldview that believes that they are, above common people, and that they are kind of the ruling class, and it's kind of this God-given aspect. There is a spiritual aspect to this. There is a cult, an occult, and a cult, which are two different things. A cult being that there's hidden knowledge in the world. And so I'm not completely against and would say that the occult is all evil. I am not one that would make that argument, because I think that there is an occult element that is built into our world. And it's undeniable for me, as far as there's things we can understand about the world that are not known. You have to dig for it, right? As far as like scientific knowledge, observing the world, creating scientific laws, digging into how the world works, right? That is essentially, I believe, a lot of what these elites are doing, that they are gaining access to the scientific and technological knowledge. And again, even Nikola Tesla said that there is a theory that he has told people that he got insight from entities outside of himself. And so there is this spiritual, this aspect that they believe, regardless of whether you believe it or not, or I believe it or not. Obviously Christians and your traditional kind of religious people would believe that there is a spiritual realm. Okay, but so these people do believe that there are different realms, and that entities can communicate with them. And a lot of these scientists over the course of history have gotten their knowledge from these entities. That is not something that's crazy. All right? We have to acknowledge these things, that this is what they believe. And so even coming from me, being somebody who spent time in Christianity, I went to seminary, lost faith in seminary, pretty much. Became kind of an agnostic. Like, I don't know if any of this is true. I have to sit back and look at what's going on in the world. And to me, it's like something bigger is at play here. Something's going on. These occultists, many of them believe that they are, let me find it. There is a element of some of these cultists that believe, that are involved in the occult, accessing hidden knowledge and all this stuff. There is an element that I do believe many of these people are evil and they are hoarding this knowledge. When in reality, this knowledge could be used for the betterment of everybody, right? And so I think that there's this element of these cultists are using it they're using it mainly for themselves and to keep and hold on to the power that they've developed over the course of, hundreds of years, if not thousands. And so they are, and then it is exactly how the Bible describes it, in that there are wolves in sheep clothing. They act like they come and they're coming in this brain of peace and prosperity for everybody, philanthropy, right? They're all philanthropists like Gates and Rockefellers. They've all got their philanthropic organizations that they operate behind. So they do some good in the world, and that's kind of maybe how they justify it, possibly. They justify maybe some of the evil that they're doing with, hey, we're doing good in the world. And ultimately, I think that they justify it in that they would say that this doing what they are doing with COVID, and I do believe that they've attempted to keep it, that it is a conspiracy, and that it is very likely that they wanted to usher in this new world order, this new system, this new financial digital system, this new driving us into digital worlds, the metaverse type thing. That they're really they've tapped the last system out, right? And they were the ones who were behind the old system. This is the funny thing, is that a lot of these people involved in the World Economic Forum and steering kind of the new economy, they were the ones that were in control of our old economy, the oil-based economy, which they now are saying is bad, right? They benefited off of that, and in many ways controlled much of that. And now it's like this sudden shift, and they've been saved, right? And then now it's like, they've seen the light. We've got to make a change. Trust us. We're going to usher in this new one. It makes zero sense to me to trust these people. And so this is important. I know I'm rambling. I'm not even talking about anything that I had planned on talking about. But there is this group of people. There's this book. I think it's very important. And there's many books on this topic. But there's this Jewish cult and called the Sabbatean Franks. He says Shabbatian. I've always thought it was Sabbatean Franks. But there was this group called the Frankists, and it was this guy this messianic movement that this book says has been in, kind of moved since the destruction of Jerusalem. And so in 1666, which is interesting, this guy, Shabbatai Zevi, he basically said he was a Messiah. He says he was the Messiah. There's this whole Messiah element to this, that many of them converted into Catholicism. It ties into the Illuminati. Okay, all of this ties into the Illuminati. And again, George Washington even talked about the Illuminati. From this book, there's this guy named John Robinson who wrote a book in 1798 about the Illuminati being advancing, kind of like, it's like a cancer. Okay, on our level, in the human level, my opinion, this ideology, this worldview that some of these Illuminati people have, it is like a cancer. That's how I view it on a human level, right? We've got cancer at the cellular level. We've got cancer at the human level. And that's what we're dealing with. But it goes into this, it got into Freemasonry and started kind of spreading its ideas in Freemasonry, and has in many ways taken over Freemasonry. That's the argument that John Robinson in 1798 was talking about. And somebody sent this book to George Washington and said, hey, do you know anything about the Illuminati? Be aware, because they were all Freemasons, right? They were all Freemasons. And again, I come back to Freemasonry as, I think, ultimately, there was many of these people that did want to do good. And it was all about enlightenment and like gaining knowledge through schooling and things like that, right? And getting into science, technology, and using it for the betterment of humanity. Like, okay, I can get on board with that, whatever, on some level. The secrecy and stuff like that is another thing. But even John Robinson talked about the Jesuits. So there's this Jesuit connection to this Jewish cult, and they kind of track it throughout history. Its flow through the Rothschilds, the Asiatic Brethren, and Catherine the Great. Some of these major figures throughout history have kind of been involved in this. And there was a French Revolution aspect. The Illuminati kind of were behind the French Revolution. Even the Immanuel Kant, which I have a clip that I've got where Henry Kissinger says that they are basically fulfilling this Immanuel Kant prophecy of ushering in kind of this one globalist environment. And so, again, where they go with this is that they go to the place of that this is a moral obligation. We have a moral obligation to usher in transhumanism because, we can prevent disease, treat disease on a whole other level, on a genetic level, can solve all these problems. And they say it's not eugenic, but it expresses our fundamental human nature to make rational decisions and to try to improve ourselves. To be human is to strive to be better. And so, okay, in some level that's true, right? Life is about growing, and we go from little children to become adults, and there's this massive learning that has to take place there, right? And we all learn on different levels and seek things on different levels. So in some ways that there's some truth to this. But again, understanding the evil aspect of this, okay, that there is an evil that believes, and I don't know if I said this earlier, but these Sabbatean Franks believe it is their goal to transgress all of the law. So thinking about this is a Jewish cult. Think about the Jewish law that was given in the Old Testament. That is now gone. We're in the new covenant. In their eyes, the new covenant is these chosen people are supposed to transgress as many laws as they can. And it's like out of their evil, right? So they are evil inherently. And they are doing evil. That is what this is what this cult is teaching. All right? And then out of their evil, good will overcome it. Or it's like we have to do this evil, but in the long term, it's gonna benefit all of humanity, And so this is the stuff we're dealing with, and I think this is important for us to understand that we're dealing with worldviews. How do these people view the world? This, in my perspective, that many of these people involved, there is a massive Jewish aspect to a lot of these high-level elites. And there's also there is a Jesuit aspect to this as well. There's and the Pope. The Pope is a Jesuit, and so we could go on for hours about this kind of stuff. But what I want people to understand is that there is something being pushed that is ultimately could be used for good, could be used for evil. And we have to understand that I believe evil tends to naturally bubble up to the power positions in society. People that are willing to do whatever it takes, they're willing to kind of lie and cheat and do whatever it takes to get to the top. Those are the people that eventually a lot of times do. I'm not saying everybody at the top is evil, but I do think that evil does tend to rise to the top because they're willing to do things that the common person would never do, right? And so this is what we got to be paying attention to, is how are they trying to structure this world? And I do believe that we're dealing with evil people that want to centralize all of this technology into a small group of people's hands. And we've got to expose it. We've got to start having conversations about how can this be done on a democratic level? Could we potentially, instead of having a centralized AI, have decentralized AI, lots of small AIs that are not interconnected, that is going to prevent people from being controlled, in a way that would allow somebody to control the whole world. Can we apply a human element of oversight, or even humans that are elected to work on the code? I don't know what this looks like, okay? But I am, again, trying to come at this from a middle ground perspective that I do think that this could be used for evil. And I'm not completely one that wants to reject it all, to be honest with you, because I do think that it could bring in a better world if we can defeat the evil. Or we may end up living underneath this evil for a very long time before it's overcome. I don't know. I'm looking at this from multiple perspectives. So let me know what you think. And this is what I was gonna point this out, that this is a UK paper on human augmentation, the dawn of a new paradigm. And it's talking about we have a moral obligation. that we have a moral obligation. It says there may be a moral obligation to augment people, particularly in the cases where it promotes well-being or protects us from novel threats. So what we're seeing now with COVID, in my opinion, this is another red flag. What we're seeing with COVID is this implementation of this kind of new healthcare system, right? This brand new mRNA technology. That's fourth industrial revolution technology, which is what they're trying to usher in. But it's also kind of trying to prime us, getting used to giving up our data, giving up some of our freedoms. And so again, the fact that all of this is being ushered in out of COVID. COVID is not, it's like it's obvious that they are using COVID to advance this great reset, build back better, fourth industrial revolution. They're using COVID to advance that. That's another reason I believe we should all be very skeptical. So let me know what you think. Help share this. Follow my channel. Please come follow me on Getter and Twitter at Peasant Journalist, PEZNT. Trying to dive into some of these topics and think about them from unique perspectives. And I value your opinions and look forward to hearing back from you. We'll talk to you. See you next time.